but we have another killer coming from the UFC, entering the BKFC arena as well. His name is Jimmie Rivera, and he is coming up next. Here he is. What's going on, sir? How are you?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good.
We are just celebrating 1 year of this podcast and also Veterans Day. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks to all the vets out there and them listening. Appreciate what they've done and what they gave for the country and those who are alive right now and those who have passed.
You know what? I joined the military 20 years ago, almost 21 years ago, and I thought that I was going to do 6 years, get some free college, and get the fuck out. And you know what? Almost 21 years later, I am glad I'm still doing it. I actually love it.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. Appreciate what you do.
Yeah, as much as I bitch every time I go to work, I swear to God, half my day is like bitching about what the fuck we're doing. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, I wouldn't have the family I have, I wouldn't have the experience I had, and I wouldn't have the house and the car, all that shit. So, shout out to all the veterans. You all made the right decision. Anyway,
thanks, Kyle. Thank you.
Yeah, fuck you, Mike. Hey, Mike. We got Jimmie Rivera here.
That's correct.
Making your way over into the BKFC after a long, very successful run in the UFC. I'll ask you the same thing I just asked Chad. What was it that drew you over to Bareknuckle? Like you had such a successful career.
I think the past couple of interviews I've done, I'm not signed with Bareknuckle. I've had a couple other offers as well. So we're just kind of waiting for a written offer from them. And we have a couple other things that came in, and we're going to see what's going to go on. I mean, Bareknuckle is very entertaining in what they offered, but I'm not signed with anyone. Yeah, I'm still a free agent.
Okay. So where do we get our bad information from?
I don't know. Everybody's asked that. I said, I don't say I'm signed to anything until, I've signed that dotted line. So I haven't signed anything. Bareknuckle is very entertaining. I know there's been some talks of possibly me going in there and fighting Chad. I think that'd be an interesting fight. I know there's some talks about, because I would probably fight 35 and 45, but I'll see what they have. They offer some good stuff, but I also got other offers other places as well. So I'm just being patient, because that's something you have to deal with being a free agent, is being patient. But it's definitely something that I recommend to people. Don't just jump right back, see what other places offer you when you're a free agent. Everybody has their threshold and what they want, or if they, there's certain things that people want where, maybe they won't make as much money in one organization, but they have certain things that they enjoy, so they'll rather be there. Everybody's a little different.
I would imagine people are interested too. I would imagine that there's a lot of offers out there with the amount of success that you had in your UFC run, especially. You beat a lot of big name guys. You were always a top 5, top 10 contender. The only losses that you ever had in your entire career are up to the best of the best. They're all fucking top notch guys. So who wouldn't want to have, PFL? I don't see why the PFL wouldn't offer you some money. You know what I mean? One, Bellator. I'm sure they've all called, right?
Yeah, I mean, I let my manager handle all that. I just, once we're done with everything, we sit down and we just discuss, pros and cons. Man, we get that legal notepad out and we just start going down. Or at least I do.
What would you rather do? Would you rather Bareknuckle box or MMA?
You know what? I like boxing. It's something that I enjoy. So doing anything in the boxing world is very interesting, to me. Whether it's getting on a Triller card or any undercards of boxing, is it Danza you pronounce it? Is that the right way? What Canelo's assigned to? Any of that stuff, Bareknuckle, obviously, it's fucking that's ferocious, the Bareknuckle. So it's pretty cool. I like the fact that I'm a free agent, and at the same time, I don't have to be strictly with MMA. I have other options that's not MMA. I box for a long time. I mean, I'm a martial artist. I'm not like Chad, who came up. I think he was a wrestler and then got into MMA. I've been training since I was a kid. And one of the things we learn as martial artists, you don't just train what you're good at. You train what you're not good at. So one of those things I think we get compliments a lot is like when we go into a boxing gym, or if we have boxers come to us, they always think, MMA fighters, we're going to fuck them up. And it's a completely different story. Especially, in the beginning, when we were first kind of new to it, we didn't do so well. But as we kept going, we just kept getting better. You know, and I got to train some really good guys.
You know, it's funny that you come from the tough season 14. That cast, you got Johnny Bedford,
Yep.
you got Marcus Brimage, you got yourself, you got Dustin Peg. Well, you're not signed to BKFC, but it's like
right.
Bedford's a champion there. Brimage fights tomorrow night. Peg just fought last week. I know that they've contacted Dennis Bermudez. It's like that season is very interesting to Bareknuckle for some reason. You know what I mean? Did you realize all that?
Yeah, I know those 3 names that are in there, so it's cool. I know the champ is Bedford, 35. It's interesting. I'm not gonna lie right now. We're sitting here right now, and when it's brought up, like I can't believe Bedford fucking still fights at 35.
I know.
Dude is like 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet tall. Fucking, he's taller than me. He's like a skyscraper, and I can't believe that guy makes. I remember being on the show. We were at the tryouts. And I'm like, oh, cool. You're fighting 45. He's like, no, I'm doing 35. I'm like, you're doing 35 in the show? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, how the fuck do you make 35?
Oh, he's massive.
I'm like, it's literally like a liquid diet. I don't know what he does, but I just can't believe he fights at 35. I
can tell you one thing. When you see him at the weigh-ins, we went to his last one at the weigh-ins. He's not a very nice guy on the day of the weigh-in. So whatever he's doing to make 135.
Oh, he's not happy. He's definitely not happy.
He's in a fucking mood. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, he's going through it
all the time, I bet. I mean, when he was doing the tryouts, I couldn't believe he's still like, he's like, yeah, I'm fighting 35. I'm like, what? I'm like, that is crazy. But hey, you know, works for him. Good for him. I can't say much more. I'm just shocked.
We didn't think he'd go back to once he lost to Dat Nguyen. I don't know if do you follow the sport, Bareknuckle?
My weight class is more. I always, especially with being a free agent, I did. You know, yeah, when he had that that's not being like I'm trying to be in this Asian kid, right?
Dat Nguyen. Yeah, he's fighting again tomorrow. But yeah, when he fought Dat and he ended up losing, we were like, a lot of people, right? We were all like, there's no way he's coming back to 135. He's got to fight at 145 or 155, right? Nope, he came back. He said, fuck that, I'm getting my belts back. And then he came back and got him back. Yeah. And Dat Nguyen went up to 155 and he's fighting Palomino tomorrow. So that's something that's it's opposite. It's crazy.
Oh, he went up a lot. I saw him at the weigh-ins. I was like, you know, he only weighed 151. So I was like, you know, it's kind of light for 55 to fight that, you know?
He's trying to puff himself out pretty big too at the weigh-ins.
He's a little round.
Palomino's...
You know, it's a little different when you know, okay, maybe you're jacked at, you know, 51 and you're ripped still and all that. But, you know, it's, you know, give up. In boxing is a little different than MMA. I think, you know, in boxing, you don't have to worry about, you know, the takedowns and stuff like that and being on the ground with someone a lot bigger than you. But you still have to deal with that weight when you're boxing them. You know what I mean? And they're going to pack more of a punch because they have more weight behind it. So it's interesting. I thought that fight, you know, when you look at Bareknuckle, the only thing I wish is that they had the weight classes when they have the card, because you don't know what weight class of who's what. So I'm like, oh, what's this guy at? And I got to try to look it up to see what they're fighting at, what weight, because every weight's, you know, they're all different.
Well, me and Mike were just talking about the weight classes for the BKFC, especially. Man, they need to get their fucking story straight. It's like Hector Lombard is the cruiserweight champion. He's defending. It's on the poster. He's defending his cruiserweight title against Lorenzo Hunt at BKFC 22. Then they announced BKFC 22's fight will be for the light heavyweight title at 185. Not the cruiserweight title. And then they walk out on the stage and they say fighting for the light heavyweight title, and Hector Lombard gets up there and it says like cruiserweight
195. They said 195 for Hunt was 194.8, I think, but they announced 185. So it's very confusing on what weight class they're fighting at. So yeah, you definitely are right. They need to get their weight classes in check over there.
Yeah, there's a few things that they need, but like we've always been saying, they've only been in existence for 3 years right now. You know what I mean? It's like UFC 1996 right now.
Yep. So, and 2 years were COVID years too. So
yeah, It's tough. I mean, that 1 year, it's hard to put on shows and it took a little time when COVID hit.
Right. And trying to build a talent pool during the pandemic. They were having a hard time getting fighters to come in. It's like they powered through it. Respect to BKFC for powering through the pandemic. They were still putting on shows. Right when UFC was the only MMA one putting on shows, Bareknuckle was right there with them. Whether they were putting on 7, 8 fights a card, it didn't matter. They were still out there doing it. What I would say to you is obviously MMA, there's lots of options there, but you take a look at that 45 and that 35 division, there's a lot of interesting people that you could go fucking head to head with. Kid Gotti Grant, Reggie Barnett, Johnny Bedford,
John Lee Chalbeck.
John Lee Chalbeck would be are you familiar with him?
Not as much. No, I'm not gonna lie to you.
You should check out him. He would be a very interesting fight for you. I mean, it would be exciting. That's all I'm saying. They announced that Mendez and Mike Perry will be making their debuts in February at Knuckle Kingdom 2. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to hang around till February, but that would be one hell of a card to fucking get yourself on, I think.
For sure.
Is there a date that you're trying to get a contract signed by? Like, hey, I'm going to wait for all these offers until X date, and then I'm going to decide,
No, just
no rush.
It's taken some time. But no, I don't have like a set date. It's just one of those things you got to be patient about. And that's all I'm doing, being patient about and see how it goes and go from there. I know a lot of people, said, it's probably because my manager, we're, signing Bareknuckle. I'm like, I know he said it, and I joke with him all the time. I joke with him about it. I'm like, I'm going to say I'm signing anything until I sign that dotted line, and until I get, that written offer in and everything's set in stone. But we know we did get offers other places as well. So we're just waiting to get that. I guess Bareknuckle would be the final contract we get compared to everybody else. And then from there, just sit down and decide.
What do you know about this Stuna Tony Loco Soto?
Tony used to be like a student of mine back. Not even that. He just came in and trained time to time. He was a student for a little while over in Brooklyn when I was teaching over there.
Yeah, we love that guy. He said that you guys know each other from back a while back. And
yeah, he trained, and then he messaged me. He's like, "Oh, don't tell me we're going to be on the roster together, this and that." And I'm like, Tony, I had no idea you were doing Bareknuckle. I know he was fighting. I just didn't realize he was doing Bareknuckle. I was like, good for you. Yeah, I know Tony. He probably knew him for like a year. I was only in Benson about a little over a year or so. So I knew him for at least 6 to 9 months. And we've always been cool, cordial. I was like, yo, if you ever want to come train, you're more than welcome to train with the fight team and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's a piece of work, man. He came on here. He started a podcast of his own called Tea Time with Tony, where he fucking drinks tea and eats toast and shoots the shit with people. It's fucking hilarious. And he has a little segment called Spilling the Tea. And tell me something that pisses you off, that kind of thing. It's pretty fucking hilarious, man.
That's
Tony's
cool.
funny, and he's 1-0. He got a win. It was a tough fight. He fought a kid named Josh Sykes, and he got the W. I think I don't know if
he messed his hand. Yeah, he did mess his hand up. He's kind of dealing with that issue now because he was going to fight actually on the card tomorrow. He was supposed to fight, and he had to get pulled off of it because his hand wasn't healed. Something's wrong with it. But I guess that's par for the course with Bareknuckle. Sometimes you hit somebody and the skull ain't going to be too good for your hand if you hit the wrong way.
Yeah, make sure you're hitting with the right part of your hand too.
Yeah.
Right. Now, so your background is it more of a boxing, or you have like I know you're a 3rd-degree black belt in some form of karate, right?
Yeah, I think Tiger Showmans was always MMA. We went from Tiger Showmans karate, and we evolved over time to MMA, and then we actually changed it to martial arts from like the case studies we did and stuff like that. So, but we've always been like, we teach mixed martial arts. We teach, explain it to someone coming in. We teach self-defense, standing self-defense on the ground. And then, at the schools, the highest level you go is like advanced. And then once you go to our headquarters and you train during the day, that's like the expert training. That's where all the fighters are from and all that. And we always got controversy. They always, like, a lot of people on the East Coast would call us like a McDojo because we have 46, 47 schools. When we open up even more schools, we survived through the pandemic. The way we do business, stuff like that. we do really well, but I hate that. Some people say that. I'm like, they're just jealous because we do so well. They're like, oh, you're a McDojo. I'm like, but we had 7 guys going to the UFC. I'm like, how could we be a McDojo? Most of those guys started as kids and came up. Nick Pace, Louis Galino, Shane's Burgos in there, Lyman Good, Julio Arce, Mike Trezano was on the Ultimate Fighter and won it. Like, how can you say we're a McDojo when we produce this? And most of those guys, like Mike Trezano, started training at like 17 and made it to the Ultimate Fighter. Shane Burgos was training since he was a teenager.
Burgos
Lewis, Nick, and I were training with kids. Like Lewis was probably the youngest. He was probably like started at like 3 years old. Pace started at like 5. Lyman even started at like 16 or 18 years old. You know what I mean? And who am I missing? Julio, he started a little older. He started I think around like 12. But we've all been only with Tiger Showmans and trained only with them and made our way into this whole MMA thing and fighting. And at the time, it was like myself, Pace, and Lewis. That's when amateurs started coming out MMA, and all of a sudden it was like, this is fun because there was only amateur kickboxing, and then you go either pro MMA. Like when Lyman was fighting, that's all there was. There was no amateur for him. It was either once you're done, like you go pro and that's it. Now you have things where you go amateur. I think it's still like this. You do amateur kickboxing and MMA. And I think also, and depending on the state, I think you can do pro kickboxing, but you can still do amateur MMA. And then once you go pro MMA, that's it. You're a pro. Everything's pro.
Right. Once you're a pro, you never go back. I mean, that's tough for some of these kids that like fucking go jump straight into pro. You know what I mean? I always wonder why a fighter would choose to fucking do that. Get a few amateur fights under your belt. Test the waters a little bit before jumping into pro, because once you go pro, you're pro.
And that's your record. Like I tell people all the time, like we've had people come in and just want to go and pro all that. I'm like, get as much amateur fights you can. Honestly, you want to win, obviously, but it doesn't matter if you lose amateur. That's your learning experience. That's your all the experience you're gonna need to get before you go pro. Like Julio, who's fighting this weekend in the UFC. He probably had almost 20 fights amateur, kickboxing, MMA in total. And I think he went probably around or 21. He was like, I want to say he was like 18-2 before he even went pro. So It's really important to get that experience in. And then once you go pro, that's it. It's like you want to have like a good record and keep going pro and do well.
Jimmy Smith was just talking about this on his show on Locking the Cage the other day. He was talking about how somebody on one of these recent UFC cards was like, they had like 6 losses on their, and they started their career like 4-6 or something like that. He was like, what you guys don't understand is he was 1-0 as an amateur. So his next 10 fights were pro, where he never should have been fighting pro to begin with. So he was 4-6 to start his pro career. But really, that was still sort of his like amateur come up part of his career. Like, you know what I mean? Those should have been amateur fights. And then now he's like this fucking world beater. I don't even remember who he was talking about, but now it's like the 6 losses that this dude has on his record are the only losses he ever had on his fucking record, something like that.
Do you know who that was?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. It was just the other day he was talking about it. I could look it up and find it.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. I think it's just like it's coaching. You know what I mean? And it's once you find it, you want to find a team, but you also want to find good coaching. And even when you're fighting, you don't want to. We go pro. We're looking to go with someone that's like 1-0 or 0-1. Your first pro fight, not someone that's 5-0. Like. You need to get your feet wet. You need to get that experience. You go someone that's, 5-0 and it's your first fight. Mentally, it probably fucks the person up. But then this person has so much ring experience compared to you do. Like it's tough. Like it's hard to compare. But like watching the Rose and Zhang fight, I think Zhang, she had some more fights, but the level she was fighting at before she got in the UFC was way different to now. Like the level that she's at now. I believe Rose won that fight because her fighter IQ was just she had a lot more experience, a lot more of high level fights, and her fighter IQ was higher than Zhang. And she really took it away with the takedowns and the counter punching and all that counter kicking. And she was able to seal the rounds and, really take that win away. I think you give Zank a couple more fights, or and review those fights that she's lost, and even the fights she won, and see what she could do better, and that helps with your fighter IQ. Our fighter IQ is like a big thing. You got to be able to know, when you're down, and you got to be able to trust your corner. When you come back and they say, it can't be like a Ronda Rousey called her, oh, you're winning the round, and she got torn up in the round. I'm like, no, you lost that round. You got to go in there and you got to win this next round. You know what I mean? You got to go in there and steal a show, or whatever advice they're going to give you. So coaching is important. Having a good team behind you, important. Training partners is an important thing too. Guys that can mimic, training. Like when I got ready for the Uriah Faber fight, I trained a lot with Frankie Edgar to get ready to that fight. He wasn't too far from me. And I was like, perfect. He fights at 45. I won't see him at 35. Even though when I went there the first time, I met him like maybe one time before that, but I didn't pay attention. Like I didn't size him up, but I went there to train with him. I sized him up, and I was like, dude, you should be a 35er. 45 is that's a lot of weight. I can't believe he fought at 55.
Right.
That's a huge thing. Like 55. Like he was like eating whatever he wanted, and he was still underweight at 55.
So we were just talking about this actually yesterday. I said I wish he would have went 135 10 years ago, but like did the UFC even have a 135-pound division 10 years ago?
They didn't. So that was
it wasn't until
that's
they got
the dilemma
WEC.
he had. He had to go 55. That was the lowest weight class.
What are your thoughts on Frankie right now? After a lot of talks are Frankie should hang it up, but I'm not in that camp at all. I believe that Frankie should probably step back from fighting all these top 5 guys now, and maybe get some wins back under his belt. But what are your thoughts on Frankie right now?
If I was like, because I coach too, and I've had guys that coach, and the guys in the team I always help, and even my teammates, the guys that fight high level. If I was like Frankie, I would be like, go back and involve your game a little bit. He's a great point boxer and a great wrestler. Throw some of your kicks in there. Start mixing up with some kickboxing. You know what I mean? Change it up a little bit. You don't see him ever kick. It's all boxing. It's all point boxing, and sometimes I think if you throw some kicks in there, and if he sometimes plants and hits, like he can stick with the point boxing, but every now and then you got to plant and rip a punch. But again, he had a tough fight. He got caught. You know what I mean? Can't be going back on someone. It happened to me with a Jan fight. I was up the first round, up the second round, and I coasted the last 20 seconds. I got caught with a little flash knockdown, and I got back up. But it was like that, that's a tough fight. I look back at it now, I'm like, man, I won, 4 minutes and 30 seconds of the first and second. And the third round, I think it went either way. I thought I won the third round, but then I lost. I got a flash knockdown, and they gave him the round. I'm like, damn. And that's when you start looking at some refs. It's hard because some judges, they'll you'll get the takedown, they'll give you big points on it. Some judges don't, because you get the takedown, you don't do anything with it. Like, all right, whatever, they don't give you anything for it. I believe if you get the takedown, you got to get the takedown and then do something with it. You got to do some damage, or at least just hit. Whether you don't beat the shit out of him, you at least hit. Like Frankie did a good job taking him down, doing some damage. Got hit with a nasty up kick though, that's for sure. But he just got caught. He got caught where he shouldn't have been on the cage. He shouldn't have been going forward. And when he was going forward the whole time of the fight, he was doing well.
Yep.
I don't know how he cuts weight. I don't know if he cuts weight he cuts. He walks. Let's say he walks around 150. I don't know if he's starting, whatever water trick, whatever he does, and he gets back up to 150. I don't know if he's getting really low. You know what I mean? And he's cutting like a wrestler, and he's getting down to 40, 42, where he's only cutting a couple pounds to make 35. There's a lot of factors that play in that, it's important as a fighter to realize. I mean, he's always used to, 45, he wasn't cutting that much, so he was good there. And then now he's giving up a little bit more weight. You got that. You look at Aldo too. Aldo's he's great the first 2 rounds, but by towards the end of the second, going third round, that gas tank is not where it was when he was at 45 because of how much weight he cuts. Cutting weight takes a toll on your body. You got to be smart about it. You got to know how to do it. It's different.
Aldo is starting to look like he's settling in at 135, though. When he came down, yes, he was looking like maybe his time has come. Like he's getting a little too old in the game, even though he's only what is Aldo, 34 years old? He feels like
he's 35. Yeah,
it seems like he's been fighting for 30 fucking years, but he's only 35 years old.
Listen, but I don't know what you just did right now, but I can hear you so much better now. Just whatever you did, that was awesome. I can hear you guys now better. I don't know. Before I couldn't hear you well. I don't know what it was. I think Aldo still has.
No, I haven't changed anything.
I don't know. The volume just went up. Maybe it's my phone. My phone's all messed up. I don't think Aldo's still Aldo at 35. It's just you see in the later rounds, you know, even in the on fight, he was doing great, and then his gas tank ran out. You know, you cut weight that puts a toll on your body, and you see it in the first hand. There, you know, there's a lot of things, you know, you learn in this fight career. Like when I went 35, there was a couple times like in the beginning of the career I was, you know, a little heavy and I had to go back and cut it because, you know, it's new when you're cutting weight. You know what I mean? It's new. You have to get it down, and everybody's body is different.
Yeah, man, it's fucking crazy. Before we let you go, dude, we got 5 questions for you. We're gonna ask you, and we just did this with Chad. They were hunting questions, but these are just fucking off the wall questions that we're gonna ask you.
All right.
The first question for you: who is the most influential person in your career so far?
I gotta say, like growing up and being influential and all that was definitely like George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre, I don't think he was the most talented person. You know what I mean? But I think he was such a hard worker, and all that hard work paid off. He was very smart when he fought, good fighter IQ, but he put in the work. When he had a fight coming up, to me, he put in the work. He never showed up out of shape. You never seen him get tired in the fight.
He's still putting in work. It's fucking crazy.
He still trains. I mean, he's a martial artist at the end of the day. I think he's great. And, you know, I admired him because he said what he thought. He didn't have to talk shit, but I think he's known as one of the greatest in the MMA community of all time.
What do you think about Dana saying that Usman's the greatest welterweight of all time?
I mean, he's getting there. I think he's getting there. You know what I mean? He's got, you know, I want to see him fight a couple other guys. He's got, you know, he's got, I think 3 guys. You got Hazmat, you got Leon Edwards. I would like to see that fight. And then who's the other person? I think he's at actually, I think he might be at 85. Vittori? Was Vittori at 85 or
Marvin Vittori?
Yeah.
Vittori's 185. I was gonna say Vicente Luque might give him a little bit of a.
Okay, Vicente. I'll put him as a top 3. Yeah, you know what I mean. Those would be fights. I think, you know, no offense to Vicente, I think one of the 2 toughest fights are. I mean, he's only gonna have tough fights, Usman, and I think that guy's fucking crazy. Like I showed up in Abu Dhabi, he was fucking training the whole way. He was running sprints the day of the fight. I was like, this guy's fucking nuts. I'm resting the day of the fight. I'm like, let my body get ready to go to war.
He looks like a Terminator.
But he's getting better. Definitely getting better from what his boxing was when he fought Usman. I mean, Usman fought Kobe the first time to now, way better. His last fight, you know, before that with Burns, you know, that was a good fight.
Yep. Knocked out Masvidal.
You know, he's putting together
quite a resume. Striker, and he striked with Masvidal. And you know, I think Usman's one of those guys too that. He's an unbelievable wrestler, unbelievable gas tank, and he knows he has certain things he needs to work on to get better, and he's been working on them, and he's fucking getting better. So I think he will be up there. You know what I mean? The way he's going, he will be up there. You know, just you got to give a little bit more time. He's got a couple more fights. I think you can't say he's not the greatest of all time if he goes in there and beats Hazmat and Leon Edwards.
There you go. That's quite a resume. Here you go, Mike.
Favorite war movie?
Man.
It's Veterans Day. You know we had to ask something like this.
I had 2. If I had to pick 2, The Patriot and The Last Samurai. Right there.
There you go. And those are 2 that most people wouldn't say.
Right.
Like, why? What did most people say?
The most common answers
people would probably say Saving Private Ryan.
Platoon.
Platoon.
Black Hawk Down. Full Metal
Jacket. Yep.
Full Metal Jacket. Okay. But
those are like
yeah, I guess it's different. It depends on your taste. Like the 2 that pop up right away. And I'm not talking about newer movies. Like, you know, I mean, again, American Sniper was just an unbelievable movie. Like Chris Kyle, his story of life, like holy shit, you know. But that was more like you're living the guy's life and what he kind of went through. And then they add, you know, the movie to make it more dramatic and stuff like that. But that guy, you know, it's almost like a documentary, but they add that movie sense into it. But like if I'm thinking more movies and I'm thinking, you know, my age and you know what I grew up watching, stuff like that, I think of, you know, The Patriot
that's a great answer.
and The Last Samurai.
Yeah, I thought it was a good answer because you know, it's not one of them cookie cutter, you know.
Yeah.
All right. Your only losses, like we talked earlier, were to the best of the best. Which, if you could run one of them back, which one would you pick?
The fucking Peter Yan fight, especially.
Peter
yeah.
Yan.
I mean, my 2 losses that, you know, I with what's it called? with the Pedro fight, you know, my most recent fight, it was a war, and he beat my leg before I could beat his leg. You know, with what's it called? What's his name?
You had Marlon Moraes.
Marlon Moraes. You know what? With that
Aldo.
fight, my head wasn't there for the fight, and I got caught, and it is what it is. But when I look back at it, I look back at what I do and what I could do better. And with the Aljamain fight and the Peter Yan fight, I would run that back. The Aljamain fight was one of those things where I had a rough weight cut, and I just, you know, it's like I compare it to like, you know, when you don't get any sleep and you have to go and work the next day, and you just, you know, you fucking sucks, you know. And that's the same thing for a fighter. Like, they got sparring the next day, you get no sleep, and you go in there like, you know, you got to do what you got to do. It's just not coming out the way you want it to come out or at the right time. So that happened with the Sterling fight, and then the Yan fight, I like, fucking, I'm winning this round. I'll coast a little bit, and he just, you know, it was one of those things. Everything, all my losses were hard learning lessons that I corrected. You know what I mean? Very things I corrected. And I think if I had to run 2 fights back, it would be the Sterling fight and it would be the Yan fight for sure. I mean,
yeah,
I think
to look at your resume and to see the names that you get to choose from for which one you want to run back, your fucking fight resume is nuts. Somebody in the comments just said your resume is insane.
And thank you, appreciate it.
Like, you're picking from the elite of the elite, so it's unbelievable.
I don't think I ever had the easy go in the UFC. I think I always had the fucking toughest fight. I went from, you know, Marcus Brimage on, and that was just a tough fight with the weight cut, because I had to cut like 14 pounds for that fight, and it was fucking the worst weight cut I ever had, but it paid off. You know, getting that 90-second win. You know, so if Marcus ever wants him running back, if I'm in Bareknuckle, you know, I'm more than welcome.
There you go.
You know, then I had the Pedro fight, which was a war, and I was in Brazil, his hometown, you know, fighting him. Then I had this guy that fucking trained in the sand, Yuri Alcantara, trained out in the middle of fucking Brazil, you know, in a fucking box thing where it looked like him. After that, I had Thomas Almeida, who everybody thought was a killer, and I ran through him. I thought, you know what, nothing against Thomas, nicest guy ever. I just thought it would have been a little bit more of a fight, but I feel like that fight, I was just like, I don't know if it's just on my game, whatever it is, but I feel like I took it wherever I wanted to take it, that fight.
Is that the best you ever felt in that fight?
One of the best I ever felt. Your favorite fight, I felt great. I definitely, like, I'm not going to get starstruck, but the first round was like, holy shit, I'm fighting. You know, your favorite fucking made the fucking 135 weight class. Then I had him. Now I was supposed to fight Lineker, and then I was supposed to fight Cruz. Cruz got hurt. Lineker got hurt. And then I had the Marlon fight. Then I fought Dotson, you know, going to that fight, I said, it's either going to be entertaining or it's going to be a little bit boring. And he was just waiting for that one punch the whole time. And that motherfucker is fast as lightning, super fast. So my coaches were impressed, like, you're pretty fast out there. You're matching speed pretty well. I'm like, yeah, I just did it. I don't know what I was doing. You know, I just went in there and fought. Who did I have after that? It was Sterling. And then, I think it was Yan.
After Dodson?
It was Sterling, then Yan.
Yep.
And then what did I have after the Yan fight?
Cody Stamen,
and then the what's it called?
Pedro
was my last fight on my contract. Yeah,
that's it. Number 4. This is something that Mr. Loco Soto told me to ask you. Maybe there's a story behind this. What's your favorite traditional Puerto Rican dish?
Oh man, I'm gonna be basic right now. Rice and beans, man. Rice and beans. The way Puerto Ricans make the beans, and it's like that. Like, I'm half Italian and half Puerto Rican, so that sauce, that gravy, we call it in Italian, that the way they make it, oh my god, I love it. My aunt makes it really good. She's Colombian, but she makes it like there's, when you're Hispanic, when there's different, you know, Hispanics out there, everybody makes their beans a little different, and the way Puerto Ricans make their beans is unbelievable.
All right, Mike, take the last one. Here we go.
What's the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Is this like in a fight or just anything?
Anywhere in life?
When someone's saying you're drunk, like, I barely drink. You know what I mean? Even if I'm socializing, if we're out barbecue or something like that, and I don't have a fight coming up, I'll have a beer, but I won't even finish it. I'll have like half a beer. But when I was younger, you know what I mean? You're drinking, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And you know right away, if you were sober, you wouldn't do it. But like, yeah, fuck yeah, that's a good idea. Is there anybody that gave me any piece of advice when I was drunk that said it was a good idea? Or if I had a stupid fucking idea, but I was drunk and in my head it was a good idea, and they were like, yeah, you should do it. Fuck you guys for telling me to do that.
There you go. Beautiful. That's a great answer, man. All right. Well, Jimmie, You've been a pleasure to talk to. We're really honored to talk to you. You've been a fucking real a legend in the Bareknuckle in the UFC bantamweight division for a long time. In the UFC division for a long time, and like and
he's foreshadowing.
He's foreshadowing. Everybody keeps foreshadowing Bareknuckle. I go, listen, man. I don't say anything until I'm signed, and that's it.
Nah, man. So thank you for coming on. Thanks for giving us a little bit of your time, and we hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for you guys letting me have this. Thank you thank you to all the vets out there, especially on this day. And, thank you to all my fans and people, that follow me and support me. And no matter where I go, it's always appreciated. Anybody where to find me, I was watching the end with Madness. I'm the same way. I'm always on Instagram, Jimmie Rivera with the IE on Instagram. And people can send letters or fan mail. I'll always reply back and send something back.
There you go.
Awesome.
Man, you have a great night. Thank you very much for coming on, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
See you.
Take it easy.